everyone. Welcome to HTL. I'm Deborah Gardner, your host here on Hospitality Today Live. And it is Thursday, September 23rd. Thank you so much for joining us throughout this incredible day of being very, very proud and honoring the women all through the world when it comes to hospitality, because this is the first ever International Hospitality Women's Day as a live broadcast event, recognizing women around the world. It's a big celebration day for all the achievements that they have accomplished, and a call to action, accelerating women on the international stage. Hospitality women are making a difference. And now it's time to show just how essential women really are in the hospitality industry and the world with our next guest from Washington, D.C. And I'm talking about Melissa Cherry. Melissa is the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Miles Partnership, an experienced executive with an amazing history of working in leisure, travel, and tourism in our tourism industry. And today, what Melissa is going to talk to us about is the importance of DEI in tourism and, of course, the meetings and events industry now. She's going to also share with us her thoughts and perspective of the future of tourism and travel. And also, we've got some unique questions for her as well, like, what would she have wished she had known when she first started this career? Tips and so much more. So we want you to stick around. Don't go far. We'll be right back with Melissa Cherry. Well, here we are on International Hospitality Women's Day, Thursday, September 23rd. And I have Melissa here with me today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, Deborah, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you representing the United States, since we have women from around the world here today. You are right here in our backyard, and we so appreciate you being here. And we want to know so much about DEI and your new position with Miles Partnership. But first, I know our viewers and all the hospitality women out there worldwide want to know a little bit about your background. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I started in the industry just about 25 years ago, just over 25 years ago. I was really a big, in the arts. I started with a degree in art history, I had a master's, and I kind of bumped into this by accident. But my career has been focused on really leisure marketing, being in both Los Angeles and Chicago. I spent time at a museum. So a lot of my space has been around marketing, communications, messaging, brand positioning. And just recently, I was a chief operating officer at Destinations International, which is the official trade association for convention and visitors bureaus globally.
Well, and that is really interesting because the Destination International just had, I believe, their annual conference in the Baltimore area. And from what I understand, that was a rough ride trying to get this to happen. I think there were several times it probably wasn't going to happen, but it seemed like you all pulled it off by your planning purposes around safety and security, and ended up with what, like 900 in person, 300 virtual, something like that. I think it was a big, huge success.
Yeah, I mean, it was the roller coaster with COVID and planning meetings, and the random kind of inconsistency in terms of policy and jurisdictions has been quite an interesting, ride for us. And just the fact that, we weren't really ready for what really hybrid meetings meant and planning that. I mean, that is a second meeting in itself to plan in addition to a face-to-face meeting. And, it was quite the ride. We had to move our destination, we weren't even going to be in Baltimore this past year. We were scheduled to be somewhere else. So we quickly had to do that change, and just the resources available, for the CVBs to help support us. Baltimore was an amazing city to have a meeting in. It's right in our backyard. DI is based in Washington, D.C. But it was a lot, and it was a lot of a huge learning curve for not only me, but my meetings team at the time and the education team and everybody really on staff. It was something new every day. And then having the safety precautions and those forever changing and not knowing if they were going to move. And, it was just, and people having meetings in Florida versus California and then having them. I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was. But what a great city to have that conference, because you're right there with, John Hopkins right there, University of Maryland Medical Center right there. You have the local health authorities there. You've got the mayor involved. Atlas Group did an unbelievable job with all, the outdoor dining and experiences like that. So I say kudos to you all for pulling that off. It made, national news here in the US because it was such a great success. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Now,
and thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I just really wanted to emphasize, we could not have pulled off that meeting without that team in Baltimore. They really were the ones to bring in the mayor and the city services to make sure we had everything. Yeah, it was awesome.
That is so cool. And that's what it's probably going to take, right, Melissa? Because these hybrids are not easy. It's 2 meetings in one.
Right.
And to try to emulate, them together is such a tough thing to do. And I know, not only is it tough, but it's not a favorite for, planners to even do it right now because there's so much involved. But I just don't know if it's going to be something that, it's going to be another whole team that's going to have to come on board for every company and organization, the hybrid team and the in-person team, because for meeting and event professionals to continue this, they're going to run themselves ragged.
Yeah. I have to say I would say the verdict is actually out on that. From the experience I had in the team, my takeaway from Baltimore is that people really still want to meet face to face. That is a priceless experience that you can't recreate in a virtual environment. And you just, we're an industry that meets, we're an industry that goes to destinations. And so, in our case, I don't know, kind of moving forward, but I'm not on the team that all hybrid is about to be what the next move is for our industry. I think people are going to see the value in face-to-face, and they're going to find other ways to bring content to their attendees or their consumers or their clients, whatever it may be. But this isn't the answer to everything. I think we're still going to go back, but looking at how we do meetings better face-to-face, right. I think.
That's a very good point. And I think that's the key right there. The goal and objective is how to make your meeting better, whether it's hybrid, in person, or the combination, whatever. That is a very, very good point. So let's talk about DEI. This is your specialty. You're the expert at this, and I know it's going to be very critical for our industry moving forward. Why is that, and how can not only the meetings industry but tourism, travel understand DEI?
Yeah, I think for the entire industry, what we've learned over the last year is that it's really going to be really critical for us to innovate as an industry in order to see growth. And I think in order to do that, that's why diversity, equity, inclusion is going to be really, really important, is that you have to really look at kind of how you're going to drive in a competitive market, people to a destination, be it for leisure or for a meeting. As we look at kind of, the demographics and the shift in terms of people being multiracial and diverse, the future of that traveling industry is going to continue to change. And so diversity, equity, inclusion right now is really important because it's a long-term commitment. It's about, how are you bringing, voice and storytelling to how, a city is promoting its destination. I think from an industry as a whole, we have to be able to stay competitive. And in order to do that, you have to look at having that diverse talent and being able to acquire that talent. I think it's also really important that, as we look at, the evolving world in which, diversity and equity inclusion will have, as things change. I think of just last week, the US Census report came out and it talked about the changing demographics of, what the US population looks like. And even at that younger Gen Z in terms of how diverse they are, and what they'll look to in terms of what they'll need and require in terms of authentic experiences with the travel industry will be critically important. So, for right now, we'll have to really think about what is that long-term strategy, what leadership is in place, what voice is at the table to make those considerations. How are we looking at audiences? How are we targeting those audiences to make sure that we're targeting, the biggest market for the biggest return on investment? And at the end of the day, DEI is important because there is a return on investment. There is a business case to do this work.
Yeah, very good points there. So what should the industry do starting right now to get DEI in place for their company or organization, to start getting a feel of, okay, this definitely is important. What are some of the things, the strategies, the checklists or guidelines that they need to follow to get that momentum going?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important things for industry leaders is to start with themselves. In order for you to do this work, you have to understand what it is and what the conversations are about. And there's been many conversations over the last year and a half, but it's better. It's about having that deeper understanding. And as leaders in the industry, you need to have that deeper understanding to actually facilitate change. And so I think, self-awareness, education, professional development, whatever that route may be, I think it's important for people to kind of take that first step. I think secondly, looking from, an organization or company perspective, what does your leadership look like? Who's at the table, who has voice, who's on your board? Board diversity and inclusiveness is important, across gender, race, ethnicity, et cetera. I think also looking at kind of how are we recruiting and hiring into this industry? That's going to be very important. What are we looking at? Where are we looking for talent? We're very used to looking for talent in traditional ways, and we're losing young, bright talent to other industry verticals like technology and, just all kinds of different spaces. And we need them in the tourism industry. So that workforce development and that talent development and, keeping that retention is going to be really, really important. And then I think just, again, I kind of mentioned this, but that competition is going to heat up in terms of, again, where do people want to travel? And so, looking at how you're doing your media buys, how are you doing your strategies where it's not a side of inclusion or a side of diversity, it's actually part of that general buy and making sure that you're able to diversify that. I mean, that is where the growth is going to be when you look at visitation and, economic impact.
Good points. Very good points. So it starts at the top, and it can work its way through the organization. So it really puts leaders in a position where this has to happen. They have to do what they can to know more about DEI and how to implement it in their strategies, along with sharing, what they have learned along the way. But I love what you said about the employee, our recruitment side of things. I totally agree with that. And I don't think that has been looked upon in the past or paid attention to in the past. But now I believe that's really going to help them understand DEI if they actually show us the action that they take within their company or organization. Good. Very good points. So you mentioned about, the competition and the change needed. What does the future look like? I guess this is a two-part question. What does the future look like if this doesn't take place? If leaders do not hop on board and really get to know DEI, what DEI means and what we need to do with it? Or let's say they do get on board and it's flourishing. So what does the future look like with those pros and cons?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, but I mean, you have a change in demographics. You have a change in how people actually identify. I think one of the interesting things I read in the last week with, like I said, the census numbers coming out is that more people are now identifying themselves as multiracial, not in one group, and that was because the question wasn't even being asked correctly. So I say that in the face of when you're looking towards the future of tourism and understanding. You have to be able to speak to your audiences in authentic ways. I mean, I pick a city, I'm inspired by a city because it's relevant. There are touch points or experiences or voices or people's faces, things that I see here, all of those things that drive me to make a decision to go somewhere. And you can't do that when it's done from a very non-diverse perspective in creating that marketing kind of plan or that promotion. And that goes across the industry from meetings to events to leisure, et cetera.
Good point. Good point. So, how does this affect women in the hospitality field when it comes to this?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started in industry 25 years ago, and the boardroom doesn't look much different than when I started. And there's even of color, there's less of that continuing, but women, it's still kind of the boys' club. I sit in MIDI meetings, and especially when I was at Destinations International, where it's just the guys, and you're one of a few in the room. Now, there's a lot of women that are in the hospitality industry. Let me be very clear before people be like, what is she talking about? But it's in the positions at higher levels. It's the equity in compensation. It's the equity in being in, large jobs that, women are looked over. It's still the same usual suspects that, people tap into. And that's what really needs to shift.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And all the women viewers right now are agreeing as well, because I had the same run-in with when I worked for Marriott. It just seems like the good old boys club, but we need to put a stop to that. And there needs to be this recognition that, hey, women do have a brain. We do have talents. We do, and this is all above and beyond being beautiful. So,
Right.
but there's so much more that is missing. And I agree with you, because being in the industry, but pretty much the same amount of time as you have, it is true. I really haven't seen that much change. And so I think today's women are not looking to compete against each other, but compete within themselves to say, hey, I can take this on. I can take this role. It's just a matter of having the opportunity and the
Access.
access. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a really, really good point. Thank you so much. And so with you being in the industry for 25 plus years now, what's the one thing, if you had to look back, what's the one thing you wish you had known when you began your career that you said, oh my gosh, I could have utilized that years ago to help advance myself in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound, maybe obvious, but I mean, I had no idea what the tourism industry actually was. I bumped into it by complete accident. I met a young man doing work study in a university art gallery, and he talked about what his dad did. And I was like, I've never heard of that. And so I think one of the weaknesses of our industry is that we don't beat our chest enough, so to speak, on kind of what the career paths actually are. And I wish I had known, I mean, I don't take back anything that I've done in my experience, but it's just interesting that there's just so many different facets to what this industry can offer. And just if thinking about how we, as an industry, we could message to, a technology sector, or, even those coming in the medical space, and, people like me that came from the arts. And I mean, there's just so many different ways. I mean, I think about public policy and urban planning, and how, we don't even think to recruit in those areas when you look at a university level. And so I think that for me is just, there's so much opportunity in this industry. And I think people have a misperception.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right, Melissa, because I have a tendency to want to know that gosh, looking back, the women that have this type of opportunity to be in the hospitality industry and really take it by its reins and do what they want to do within the industry. If we only had the knowledge of what it's about, what's available, where are the opportunities, I think that would make a huge difference. And that's something that can be done now more than ever. So I would imagine, though, growing up in this industry pretty much, have you had any mentors or women that you have followed that help you gravitate toward this industry more and more?
I've met more probably male mentors, sadly, because just the state of what we just
Right.
talked about. But
That's the
when
truth.
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, the opportunities I have been to, to the the appreciation I have to two men, that I worked for in positions in the past, and that was in LA, and that was just in Chicago and at Destinations International. So but women, definitely, I think, I look up to a lot of the CVB leaders, the Convention Visitors Bureau, looking at Julie Croker in San Diego. I mean, she is just a amazing powerhouse. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. It's just great to have and hear women speak from authority in the way, Martha Sheridan in Boston, Vic Isley in Asheville, Maura Gass. I mean, there's a lot of women that are doing a lot of work. And they're so busy doing that work, you just don't hear a lot about it. So I think that's the hard thing too, is that a lot of women end up being working executives. And what that means is that they're rolling up their sleeves, they're doing the work. They're not just making the appearances and doing the speeches. They're actually digging in and doing that. And sometimes you don't hear about all those details. And so I think that's the courageous thing about the women in our industry, is that, there's that passion and dedication to be, that deep into the work.
Yeah, and thank you so much for acknowledging these women, these beautiful and brave and strong women that are out there making a difference. I think that the industry magazines and all these e-blasts that are coming out there need to gravitate toward these type of women and really help put them out there as well. So hopefully that will become known just from this episode alone. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention, everybody's attention, as a matter of fact. But I know how fast this interview is going, and again, so happy that you are here with us. One more question.
Yep.
Now that this first ever International Hospitality Women's Day has been born, not only within this live broadcast event, but recognized all around the world, what does this day mean to you?
Yeah, I think what this day means is that, Deborah, you're really creating a platform for voice. And I don't think enough that we actually, as women, have a voice to really, again, bring that authoritative experience and expertise in terms of what we do. And I think that, the fact that it's highlighting that and being able to actually almost be an ally to support that is what's really important about a day like today, is elevating what work women are doing globally around the world in terms of this industry, what that impact looks like. I mean, I just kind of mentioned, you often don't see that. You don't see the articles profiling a lot of this really great work. And so I'm excited to be included and participate in a conversation and hopefully help elevate, women's voices so that we can continue to bring this industry forward, to make it more innovative, to actually, to see growth, and to really use that diversity and inclusiveness and the approach to really equity in our industry to kind of move it forward.
Well, that's great. And I love that. That really makes a lot of sense. And just having you here participating really, really helps. You are actually making a difference, because hospitality women are making a difference. We just need to get out there more and make it happen. And why not take the reins and do it ourselves? And that's the whole purpose of getting this International Hospitality Today out there. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I know our viewers would love to stay in touch with you and know more, because DEI is here today, and it is going to stay in the future above and beyond any other topic that I know of here in the industry. So I'm sure people would really like to talk with you to get it started within their company and organization, spread it among the entire industry. So I want people to make sure that they get an opportunity to contact you. We do have in the scroll here couple ways: your email and your website. Any other way that people can connect with you?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm a social butterfly, but in person mostly. So
yeah, it's all about face to face, right?
Yeah.
Love the fact about face to face. So this is great. And I know that the in-person, it means a lot to everyone as well. And we want to make sure that we get a chance to hug and kiss again. My husband always says I'm in a huggy kissy industry.
Yes,
and he is right about that. And we really, really enjoy doing that. And I miss that tremendously. So I hope to get the opportunity to see you in person very, very soon as well. So thank you again, Melissa. You are a brilliant and beautiful woman. We really appreciate you being on this show to help celebrate our first ever International Hospitality Women's Day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
Well, there you go. You just got a chance to have we just had a brief conversation here with Melissa, and look at how much you probably learned already. I know I have. And so I hope that you will reach out to Melissa and share your story and or want some help on getting DEI into your company and organizations. Take advantage of that and make that happen. Or also just to talk about women issues, challenges, or situations. That's what we need to do here in the hospitality industry. So we really want to make sure that you get that opportunity, and why not? And if you really like this conversation, please share it with others as well. And if you got some comments or suggestions or want to be involved, well, hey, contact us at hello@Hospitality Today Live. Again, thank you so much for being with us on this special day. And we've got more guests coming up as well. So don't go away very far. We will be right back very, very soon. Have a great day.